The first thing they tell you about working in xenolinguistics is this: never assume a word means the same thing twice. I learned that lesson the hard way, on the day my accidental comment nearly rewrote humanity's relationship with an entire species. My name is Aaron Cole, and at the time, I was a junior cultural liaison stationed aboard Irene Station, a neutral hub floating at the crossroads of 6 major trade corridors. It was the kind of place where misunderstandings could spark wars, and careful phrasing was considered a survival skill. That was why I was terrified when I was assigned to my first real solo observation. The subject was Ambassador T'Char of the Kalini Accord. The Kalini were new to interstellar diplomacy, ancient, insular, and biologically unlike anything humanity had encountered. They were tall, segmented beings with translucent skin that revealed slow-moving internal light patterns. Their faces were asymmetrical by human standards, with layered eyes arranged vertically and a mouth that shifted shape depending on emotional state. To us, they were unsettling. To themselves, they were sacred. T'Char was one of their most respected envoys, a figure of immense cultural importance. And I, barely 3 years out of the academy, was supposed to assist with linguistic nuance during informal interactions. No pressure. The beginning of the encounter was uneventful. T'Char arrived surrounded by a soft distortion field, the air humming faintly around them. They moved with deliberate grace, every step measured, as if space itself was something to be negotiated. We sat across from each other in a controlled environment chamber designed to accommodate both our biologies. Translation matrices flickered between us, projecting shifting symbols as language models synchronized. You may observe, T'Char said, their voice resonating not just through sound but vibration. But do not interpret unless asked. Understood, I replied, trying to keep my nerves from showing. For the first hour, we discussed neutral topics: station architecture, stellar navigation routes, basic social customs. T'Char spoke with formal precision, offering information without emotion. I listened, nodded, and took notes, careful not to interrupt. Then, during a pause, something happened that shouldn't have mattered. I noticed the light within T'Char body shift. It was subtle, a deepening of hue along their upper thorax, like bioluminescence responding to unseen currents. It was beautiful, not in a human way, but in a mesmerizing, alien sense. The patterns reminded me of auroras I'd seen once as a child, dancing across polar skies. Without thinking, without filtering, without protocol, I spoke. "That's incredible," I said softly. "You look luminous." The words left my mouth before I could stop them. The room changed instantly. T'Char froze. The hum of their distortion field intensified, then dropped to near silence. The internal lights that had been flowing calmly began to pulse rapidly, shifting colors in sharp, erratic bursts. I felt my stomach drop. "I apologize," I rushed to say. "That was an observation, not an..." "You have made a declaration," T'Char interrupted. The translation matrix struggled, symbols flashing red as it recalibrated. "A declaration?" I repeated, heart pounding. T'Char rose to their full height, towering over me. Among the Kalini, commentary on internal luminescence is not descriptive. It is relational. I swallowed hard. Relational how? Their layered eyes focused on me, each one narrowing independently. "You have acknowledged my true aspect." I had no idea what that meant, but it sounded very bad. Within minutes, the chamber filled with activity. Security officers appeared outside the transparent barrier. Diplomatic overseers flooded my comm channel, demanding explanations. I could barely hear them, over the rush of blood in my ears. Tcharwextal, meanwhile, lowered themselves back into a seated position, slowly, deliberately. "You are unprepared," they said. "And yet you spoke truth." "I didn't mean to offend," I said quietly. "You did not," they replied. "You did something far more disruptive." The middle of the story unfolded over the next several days as the consequences of my comment rippled outward. According to Kalini cultural experts, hurriedly awakened, summoned, and panicked, acknowledging a Kalini's internal light without ritual context was an act reserved for bonded witnesses. Individuals who, through long association, were granted the right to perceive and affirm another's inner state. In short, I had accidentally claimed a role that did not exist between our species. Tcharwextal refused to continue formal talks unless I remained present. "This human has seen me," they declared during a closed diplomatic session. Removing him would constitute denial. I sat at the edge of the chamber, sweating through my uniform, while beings who could decide the fate of star systems debated my social blunder like it was a cosmic anomaly. "What exactly did you feel when you said it?" Tcharwextal asked me later, during a private conversation. I hesitated. "I don't know. Wonder, I guess. Respect." Their internal light softened, flowing into slower, harmonious patterns. "That is the response of a witness," they said. "I didn't ask for that," I said weakly. "No," Tcharwextal agreed. "But neither did I." As days passed, our interactions deepened, not by design, but by necessity. Tcharwextal explained aspects of Kalini existence no outsider had ever been told. Their people believed that true identity was visible only through internal radiance, something most species could not perceive or appreciate. To be unseen was normal. To be seen was transformative and dangerous. "Why dangerous?" I asked. "Because it creates obligation," Tcharwextal replied, "to act in alignment with what has been seen." Meanwhile, tensions escalated. Some human diplomats feared I'd triggered a manipulation tactic. Others worried the Kalini would demand binding concessions, claiming emotional leverage. The Kalini Accord, on the other hand, sent observers, tall, silent figures who studied me as if I were a strange artifact. One night, as we stood near the station's observation deck, Tcharwextal spoke again. "You did not recoil," they said. "Most species do." "I won't pretend I understand everything," I admitted. "But I don't think beauty or worth should be hidden just because it's unfamiliar." Their lights flared briefly, then settled. "Your species is reckless with words," Tcharwextal said. "Yet sometimes honesty arrives before fear." The crisis came a week later. A hardline human faction proposed suspending talks entirely, citing cultural contamination risks. In response, a Kalini elder invoked an ancient clause. If a witness bond was acknowledged and then denied, it constituted dishonor, grounds for severing relations indefinitely. Trade corridors, shared research, peaceful expansion. All of it hung on whether my accidental comment was recognized or erased. I was summoned to address both delegations. Standing in the central forum, surrounded by beings from dozens of worlds, I felt impossibly small. "I didn't intend to change anything," I said, voice steady despite my fear. I spoke without thinking. "But I won't pretend the moment didn't matter." I turned to Tcharwextal. "I saw something extraordinary," I continued, "and I named it. Not to claim you, not to bind you, just to acknowledge what was there." Silence followed. Then Tcharwextal stood. "The human did not seek power," they said. "He offered recognition. That is rare." They faced the assembled delegates. "The Kalini will not demand advantage," Tcharwextal continued, but we will not deny truth for convenience. The ending came quietly. The accord ruled that the witness bond, while unprecedented, would be symbolic rather than binding, a cultural bridge rather than a constraint. Talks resumed, cautiously but sincerely. I was reassigned, not punished, not promoted, but repositioned as a permanent cultural intermediary. Charwextal remained as ambassador. On my last day before the new role began, we stood together watching a nearby nebula bloom across the void. "You changed everything," I said. Charwextal's internal light flowed in slow, radiant waves. "No," they replied. "You noticed what already was." I smiled faintly. "Next time, I'll choose my words more carefully." "Do not," they said. "Accidents reveal more than intentions." As the stars shifted beyond the glass, I realized something profound. In a universe obsessed with power, technology, and control, the most unbelievable response had come not from strategy, but from being seen. And all it took was one unfiltered, human moment to remind the galaxy that understanding doesn't always begin with knowledge. Sometimes it begins with saying the wrong thing and meaning it